You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the East Carolina women's tennis coach, Kristen Burgess. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Brandon. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into college coaching?
To be really honest, I didn't know at first. I graduated from East Carolina, and I spent the next couple of years thinking that I was going to be a lawyer. After a few years of staring out a window, I realized that indoors was the last place I wanted to be. So it took me a little while to figure it out. I guess as a player, I always kind of knew. I always preferred to watch rather than play. Not from a competitive standpoint. I'm a student of the sport. So I guess all coaches are students of the sport. So yeah, really enjoy going to tournaments, watching tournaments. But playing them was never the priority on my list. So I guess I knew from an early age, but it took me a long time to actually figure it out.
What was it like, obviously, getting to play for East Carolina tennis?
It was a lot of fun. The program has changed a lot since those days. Not to show my age or anything, but I had the privilege of playing for Tom Morris and then coming back to work for him. And he just created such a great environment as an athlete, as a student, but most importantly, as a person. So it was just a lot of fun. We had a lot of great matches, a lot of great road trips, and a lot of great memories. So I have no complaints from my time.
What were some of your accomplishments during your playing career?
So my doubles partner and I ended up being the first ever ranked tennis players for East Carolina in the ITA college rankings. So we ended up, we got a win over a team from Carolina, which was the first in program history as well. And so that kind of projected us into the rankings. And we ended up at number 49, and that was my senior year. And there's only 75 teams, I think, ranked in the doubles. So it wasn't way up there, but again, it was the first time for the program. And then I guess senior year as well was the highest wins for the team at that time. That changed a little later on, but we ended up with a 20-win season, so that was the best the team had ever done as well.
What was that like, obviously getting to be the first to be the rank for the program?
I think at the time we didn't really realize the relevance of it. We knew it was a big win. We knew it was an upset win. So when the rankings came out, like I said, I don't think we truly understood the relevance of it. But kind of as my career went on, I started, and we didn't have anybody follow that for another decade. I started to realize how important it was and how big a deal it was. So at the time, it was just fun.
What was it feeling like for you to come back to your alma mater, East Carolina, to become the head coach?
I realized during the process, particularly during the COVID period, that college coaching maybe wasn't the all-time goal for me, but coaching tennis at East Carolina, that was the goal for me. I had the opportunity to look for jobs at other universities during COVID, and nothing appealed to me. Nothing said, oh yeah, I want to move there, or yeah, I'd love to be the head of that program. So when tennis was reintroduced in February of this year, it was a no-brainer for me. It was just a fantastic opportunity. The pride that I feel about the school, you ask anybody, I bleed purple and gold. I truly do. It was an amazing opportunity for me, and I cannot imagine being anywhere else.
Of course, what was it like in 2019 to obviously have ECU tennis history being broken?
What an incredible season. again, I don't know if we really recognized the relevance of it as it was going on. But I think it really kind of, you started to feel it at the conference tournament as we were going to lose the first match in 21 matches. I looked around at the girls and it wasn't a physical exhaustion that I saw. It was definitely a mental exhaustion. We ended up losing to Cincinnati after just beating them the week before. And, it wasn't because they were better than us. We beat ourselves. We looked tired. We looked emotionally exhausted, just emotionally overwhelmed, really. So I think while we're trying to not focus on it during the season, I think the girls felt the pressure of it after every single match or leading into every single match. It just, the win streak just got bigger and bigger and longer and longer and longer. So, at the time, not so much, but it sunk in after we actually lost what we had done.
What was it like, obviously, in 2017 when you were the associate head coach?
So I had been entertaining a few offers from a couple schools at that time, and I think that's kind of when I started to realize that it really didn't matter who was calling at that point. I had an SEC school call and I had an ACC school call, and at least it kind of started to realize that it doesn't matter what you throw at me or what kind of salary we're talking about. It wasn't where I wanted to be, and I knew I couldn't put my heart into it. And so I was talking to Coach Morris about it. And he said, listen, well, let's try to progress your career still without having you move on to somewhere else. And so we talked about, making me an associate head coach. And at least, that way we were taking the appropriate stepping stones in my career, but still, not hurting the program in any way by having to find a new assistant, and not hurting my career in any way by not making moves.
Of course, what was that feeling like in 2020 when you finally became the head coach of your alma mater and all your hard work paid off?
It was completely bittersweet. And what I mean by that is, for that to have happened meant the retirement of Tom Morris. And I mean, it's something we had talked about for a few years, and when it finally happened, it wasn't how we had planned for it to have happened. And so while it was exciting for me to finally get that opportunity, it was an incredibly sad day for me as well. It ended an era. I'd worked for him for 8 years. I'd played for him for 4 years. I mean, I'd grown up in front of his eyes. My daughter sits on his lap like, his granddad almost. We have that kind of relationship. And so it was hard. It was a hard day. And I don't know that I really thought about the head coaching part. I think I thought more about he's not the head coach part more. So it was a little surreal, but mostly bittersweet.
Of course, what are some things that you have accomplished so far as head coach?
Well, I was only head coach for a week that season before COVID hit, and I've had a semester under my belt now, and technically we're a spring sport. So I guess accomplishments-wise, I won my first match as a head coach in that week. So I do have a win under my belt. And then we've managed to recruit a full team for this coming season. So it's not huge achievements obviously yet, but as far as a new head coach with a new program, a full roster, and knowing that I can go out there every single match and not worry about not having a full lineup, that's an achievement of its own for a new team, I think.
Of course, what was the feeling like of obviously going out to recruit as being a head coach after obviously being the associate head coach for so many years?
I mean, that was the easiest job of all. The best part about being an alumni of a school is you don't have to lie about anything, right? So when I'm bragging on a school or bragging on ECU, everything just comes so naturally because it's how I really truly feel. When I'm showing them pictures of campus, or I'm talking about what we've done and what our academic programs are like, like I said, it's all truth. So it was the easiest job I've ever had to do, as far as promoting the school and talking about the school. The hard part was finding the players at that time, and finding the players that were willing to listen to me. But yeah, no, like I said, there's so much pride for this university that it's an easy task.
What does a typical tennis game day match look like?
It's a lot different from the other sports. We don't have all the hoopla. So mostly my kids will be going to class that morning, maybe grabbing a bite to eat at the dining halls, and then heading out to the courts for our warm-up process, playing the match and heading home. So not a lot of fanfare. Obviously you'd like to increase that if you can. But yeah, there's when the facility is right there and there's no walkthroughs, there's no pregame meals, it's just business as usual kind of situation. And we try to be our own cheerleaders. The crowds are generally pretty small for a tennis match. So yeah, you're your own cheerleader out there. You call your own lines as well in college tennis. So we don't have any of those kind of issues either. And it's kind of just a quiet everyday kind of day for a tennis player.
Of course, what is it like, obviously, when it comes to the conference playing, obviously, teams like Cincinnati?
So tennis is interesting in that the teams that you would think would be big and great, they really aren't. So like our top school in our conference is Tulsa and UCF. So then they have the two best facilities in the country if you look around. So when you play against schools like that, you see the advantages that they have, and that's hard. But tennis is not a conference sport. And what I mean by that is we don't play it in conference schedule at all. So we just see a lot of these teams for the first time at the conference tournament. So that can sometimes be a little intimidating as well, because a lot of these teams are ending up ranked in the top 25 or in the top 30. And, luckily we do have the benefit of seeing a lot of top ranked teams just living in the state of North Carolina. We have a lot of great ones that we can play. But yeah, it can be a little intimidating going in and seeing these teams for the first time. But yeah, we don't like, it's not a day in and day out issue for us.
Of course, as you talked about, you are not in a Pacific Conference. Does that mean you can play like teams like Carolina, NC State, Duke?
Yeah. So I mean, we're in the American technically, but like I said, we're not restricted to conference scheduling only. So yeah, on our schedule this year, we'll play Carolina, we'll play State, and those are two top 25 programs right there. We can pretty much play whoever we want to, whenever we want to, as long as it fits onto their schedules, because they do play conference schedules. So you kind of have to jump around and jump through a couple of hoops if you do want to play those big programs. Play a couple 6 o'clock at night matches, things like that, which is unusual for tennis. You usually play around 11, 12, 1 o'clock during the day. So yeah, we have to jump through a few hoops, but yeah, our schedule's pretty open to whoever our budget can afford, really.
What is it like, obviously, getting to play those local teams like Carolina, NC State, and Duke?
Well, I mean, it's a lot of fun, but it doesn't have that same. I think when you talk about playing local teams and local rivalries in tennis, again, it's not really the same in that tennis is such an international sport, and so a lot of those teams do have international players. Even though they are the best teams in the country, they still have a lot of international players on them. And so you don't have those kind of regional rivalries yet. The international players, the pride in the school is there, but it's not in its entirety yet, like you would if you had grown up down the street and then you decided you were going to go to, commit to that school. There's not that kind of local ugly rivalry type stuff going on yet. But it's fun to go and play them because you are seeing some of the best players in the country, and it's giving you an idea of what your goals should be and where you maybe want to go in your personal college career.
Of Of course, what is the recruitment process like for prospective student athletes looking to join the women's tennis program?
So for tennis, we cannot contact anybody till their junior year. So we'll travel around to tournaments and showcases, and we'll kind of try to get a kid on our radar as early as possible. Starting in the 16s, and but again, we cannot email them or contact them until that junior year. So we'll start with those emails, reach out, see how many responses we'll get. And as that kind of grows, we'll email back and forth, set up phone calls, Zoom calls now, and not phone calls. And then if it progresses, then that first semester of their senior years, you'll start looking at the on-campus visits and stuff like that. And then the offer usually comes before November, because November is that first signing date for us. So not a lot of in-home visits or anything like that. Again, a lot of kids are international. So when we are allowed to travel, we do try to travel internationally to look at these players and just watch them play in tournaments. Because, for us, you get a lot of videos and you recruit based on videos, but, you can make yourself look really good in a video. You don't really get to know a kid or see what a kid plays like or acts like until you see them on the tennis court. It can bring out the best or the worst in a kid. And it's nice to be able to see them in competition and kind of get an idea of what you're looking for. So I'd say that's the process. It's emails, then actually physically watching you, then maybe an on-campus visit, and then the office.
Of course, when they are on the official visit, what is that like, obviously, as a coach and as an alma mater, getting to see them obviously be on the campus, looking at obviously if they feel at home in that ECU environment?
Sure. Having been around ECU for 20 years now, it allows me to get a pretty good gauge of is this the kind of athletes that's going to be happy in a small town like Greenville, in a college town like Greenville. Is this going to suit them? Are they going to be looking for bigger, better things, or what they think are bigger, better things? But yeah, it's nice to kind of watch them, looking around and appreciating the things that you see on a daily basis. We have a beautiful campus, so that's a big thing as well, is just watching them looking around at the buildings and the trees, and just seeing everything through new eyes every time you have a visitor come. So that's refreshing. But again, like I said earlier, it's I know all my favorite spots on campus, so I can take them all there and I can show them to them. And I introduce them to the lunch ladies, because it's the same lunch ladies that were there 20 years ago when I was eating. So it's just fun things like that. I introduce them to the staff members that I see, or the cleaning services that I see. And so it's fun. It's like a big family meeting almost. And introducing all these people to my third and fourth cousins is what I kind of feel like showing people around campus.
What advice would you give prospective student athletes that are looking to go from obviously playing high school to getting into college to play?
I think that the biggest thing that a lot of kids aren't realizing is the value of academics. As a tennis coach, I want my number one priority to be tennis. And if I don't have to be concerned about a kid's athletic academics, then hey, my job is just that little bit easier. So my advice is to make sure that you're focusing on those academics in high school, so that you are well prepared to figure out how to balance those things when you get to college, because it's a true balancing act. And yeah, I think a lot of players maybe have those professional tennis aspirations. Maybe all athletes probably have some kind of professional athlete aspiration, and only so many of you can make it on the pro ranks. And in tennis, it's even harder. The numbers are even smaller, because there's so many athletes that aren't going the college route, that are going to be pros when they're 14, 15, 16. And so you're competing against all of those kids that have got all these years of experience on you. So yeah, the chances of you making that professional career come true, they're a little smaller in tennis. And so yeah, really focusing on those academics is so important because you are going to be something else when you graduate college. And so you're going to need those grades, and you're going to need that kind of experience to help you navigate post-athletic careers.
Of course, what advice would you give college coaches looking to get started into the industry of college tennis?
If you're in it for the money, change jobs. It's not about the money. It's about the influence. Let's just say that the experience makes you rich, more than the money makes you rich. Just the ability you have to influence lives, change lives, and that's just in coaching in general. It doesn't have to necessarily be college coaching, but it's true. You do. You have this ability to influence so many lives, and that is an opportunity you can't take for granted. And it's an amazing opportunity. The fact that I get invited to weddings, and I get birth announcements, and people call me and ask me if they should adopt a dog. Those are the kinds of things that you get out of college coaching. And if that's what you're looking for, then do it. And you're looking for fame and glory, then you're looking in the wrong place.
What advice would you give college coaches that are looking to go back to their alma mater to coach just like how you did?
I think the hardest thing for me is remembering my place. So when I'm out with my friends and or at a football game, or just in general conversation, and you hear things and you hear comments and you hear complaints, and you have to remember who you are and what your job is and what your role is. And yeah, you can add your opinion to conversations, or you can just listen quietly. And so my advice is listen quietly, because the people that you hang around with, or the people in town, often don't really know what they're talking about, and it's safer and easier for you to keep it that way.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with the ECU Women's Tennis Program app?
Well, me personally, I don't have much of a presence. So you can find us at ECUW Tennis on Instagram, Twitter, and then East Carolina Women's Tennis on Facebook. We try to do a pretty good job of keeping that up to date. And Patrick McGlynn from our media relations office, he does a good job with that. But yeah, you can find us there. And yeah, like I said, my social media presence is kind of limited personally.
Thank you again, Kristen Burgess, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the ECU Women's Tennis Program.
All right. Thank you, Brandon.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Kristen Burgess, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thanks, and go Pirates.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.